Hello and welcome back to another episode of the MindSets podcast. This week, we're on episode 84. Charles, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. The weather today, for those of you, we're just going to break the fourth wall or whatever it is. It's currently Wednesday, the week before this podcast comes out, and the weather is absolutely stunning here in London.
Yeah, I don't know how long that's going to last for, though.
Probably a day.
Yeah.
But what I would say as well is I don't know who this needs to go to, but the weather should be this every day of the year and not any hotter.
Do you reckon this is the pinnacle? This is like the ideal weather?
24 degrees, very few clouds in the sky. I think that's peak.
I think to live in, yeah. I don't know, if I'm on a holiday, I want it to be a bit hotter.
Yeah, but like, because we don't have aircon here and stuff like that,
Yeah,
I can sleep, I can enjoy my time, I can get vitamin D, life's great. Interestingly, I put up a post asking for people's grind my gears. And we got more this week than most other weeks. So apparently the sun hasn't affected anyone in there. We'll get to that, like we'll also get to today's topic. So do you want to run everyone through what today's topic is?
So today we're following our current theme of kind of dissecting sports persons and their training. We're not actually dissecting the person.
That's not what we do.
It didn't sound right, did it? We're dissecting their training, and today we're going to be talking about Ellie Kildunne, who is an English rugby player. She won the World Cup with the Red Roses last year. She currently plays for the club Harlequins. In 2024, she was voted World Rugby Player of the Year. So she's got lots of accolades. She's an incredible rugby player, and in light of the start of the Women's Six Nations, which is going to happen for us this weekend. For you guys, it's already started.
It's just started, yeah.
But we thought it'd be cool to look at her training and kind of discuss it in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, especially because women's sport at the moment is developing very rapidly, quite rightly so, but also I would say that the Red Roses, and we'll get into this, is on the forefront of women's sport. So it's like quite interesting to talk about how the most elite athlete in the most elite program currently trains. And then you can also see the gap from that if you guys are interested in your training or you once played rugby maybe when you were younger, and you can see how different that is now at those different levels. But we're going to get to that, because what do we always start with? We always start with the news, and I'm actually going to hand back over to you again because you've prepared the news this week.
I'm so bad under pressure.
2 minutes. Are you ready to go?
I'm going to do my best, yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
So Jimmy Gressier, who's a French middle distance runner, he smashed the European 5K road world record. Sorry, the European 5K record, 12:51, which shakes out as a 2:34 per kilometer.
He was dressed in full white as well.
Super speedy.
Lovely uniform.
Yeah, he looked good. Kimi Antonelli wins back-to-back Grand Prix. He just won in Japan, which means that Mercedes have won the first 3 Grand Prix this season, so it's looking good for them. Big one, there's a goose and duck feather shortage in the world of badminton. So the badminton governing bodies have allowed the use of synthetic shuttlecocks in competition.
This is the kind of news you do not get from other platforms. This is why we're
That's huge. Coventry, the Big Sky Blues, they're on course for automatic promotion to the Premier League next season.
Very nice.
Courtney Laws announces his return to the English Premiership Rugby. He's signed for Sale in a bid to get back to the England squad ahead of the World Cup next year. Scotty Scheffler, favourite for this year's Masters. Off the back of last week's episode, if you haven't listened to that already, McIlroy pulled out of the Arnold Palmer about a month ago with a back twinge, but he is going to be starting the Masters this weekend. And I think that's all I've got.
Yeah, okay. So you've done very well there. You've done that in like a minute and 15 seconds. So
I was panicking.
Chill. So for those that are local to London and your favourite thing about rugby is not the tries, it's not all of that, it's the nitty gritty in the scrummaging. There is actually a scrum championship starting in which the entire game is scrummaging. So you can go along, all those big boys that do not feel like they get enough love, and big girls, I should say, specific to this episode, that want to go along and show off their talents in scrummaging. Go check it out. It's definitely one way of spending your weekend, isn't it?
There's a really niche part of the rugby community who's going to absolutely love that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how it works. Is it just literally scrum time?
Yeah. No. It's like winning the scrum, and it's like you score points on that. I believe.
At least I've watched rugby for on and off, let's say 25 years. I still have no idea how the scrum works.
That's because you were a back, and so was I.
Scrum penalties, I'm like, that's 50-50. And
Yeah.
the ref doesn't even know.
As far as I was concerned, as long like the way that the scrum should work is that the ball gets put in by the team that wins the scrum.
yeah.
Like that's how I designed it in my head.
Yeah.
If that doesn't happen, and I'm happy about that as a back. If the team that I'm playing against, they put the ball in my head, they should still win. And I should be on defense.
Yeah, always.
I'm okay with that.
That's how it
when
goes.
it changes, not ready. Don't like that. That's a lot.
That's so classic.
Well, that rounds us off. We actually did do that nicely inside 2 minutes, and then we started being comedians as usual. We need to move on to grind my gears.
Sure.
So grind my gears. If you are new to this or you've not experienced many episodes in this, grind my gears, you guys do a fantastic job of getting angry the same way that we do about things in life. And then through our social media at MindSets_podcast, people send us in what's been annoying them. And then we basically go through it and we validate you or we call you out. You don't have to be anonymous, but you can be if you really have to be. Do you want to start us off?
Unfortunately, I can't be anonymous.
No, you can't.
My one's, one of mine. We've got a long list. That's why you're like, we've got to get into it.
We have to get through this. We've got a long list. Yeah.
I've been accused a lot recently of, and I put it in inverted commas, you don't train. And I've stopped posting basically on social media. I used to do a lot of posting about my training, what I was doing. And I think off the back of not posting anymore, people have just assumed that I've dropped off the face of the earth and no longer do any sort of fitness. Which I don't know why it feels so offensive to me, but I get really offended by it.
It's your personality, that's why.
It must be. Because I'm like, do they just think I'm genetically gifted? Because I for damn sure I'm not. So yeah, when people are like, yeah, but you don't really train. I do a lot of training actually. So I had a bit of a sarky moment on my Instagram story today where I just posted a photo of me and said I don't train.
Topless. Yeah,
I was topless, yeah.
Fairly obvious that he either...
I'm scared about what you're going to say.
He either does train a lot or he's another grind my gear and he's using a hell of a lot of peptides.
That can't be on the internet. For the record, I do not use any peptides.
Cool.
And is that one of your...
Yeah, one of the grind my gears is that peptides are just being pushed by everybody.
Everyone.
And just to clear this up for people, because a lot of people don't know if peptides are legal or not. They're not a legal drug for you to use. They are sold under research purposes. Now, just to sort of allow you to understand this, there are a lot of countries you can go to in Europe where you can buy drugs over the counter. And when I say drugs, I mean the ones that are illegal in this country. But they are being sold as, what's it called when you go on holiday? Buy a fridge magnet.
What?
So like they're being sold as novelty items.
Oh, fine.
So like it is... actually, let's say weed.
Yeah,
You can buy weed. Sometimes it's got the THC removed.
Yeah,
but like you can buy that over the counter because it's decriminalized. But like if you're seen buying it, you'll get in trouble.
Yeah, okay. I get you.
So like peptides are basically that version. You should not be using them for anything other than research. And therefore you should not be telling anyone else to use them without like having done research. But the whole thing is just, it's a really sham market. It's a terrible one. And so, yeah, this is a good...
But you can get peptides for anything, can't you? You name an issue and you're like, I want to look more tanned. And you can get peptides.
So interestingly, I saw a guy on Instagram doing this. He did a 14-day experiment. I don't know what it was called. Some like worrying amount of numbers and letters. And he injected that every day for 14 days. And he genuinely looked like he'd been on a 2-week holiday.
Yeah.
And he did mention some of the side effects of it. And he was like, maybe this will catch on. But like all we got from the research in rats, etc. Like just don't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, enough stuff is coming out about Ozempic and bone density now that I'm sure a lot of people would consider maybe not doing that unless they really need it. And I do still think there's a place for that kind of thing where people maybe have lost control in their life. And for them, it's like, well, I either die of being overweight or I die from whatever Ozempic is, but at least I'm a bit more happy. Fair enough. With some of these things, just because an influencer says it's good or is being paid to say that it's good, because remember that can happen, doesn't mean you should be doing it. Anyway, we'll move on from that.
Swiftly on.
Give me another one of yours.
Okay. This next one was sent in. I'm going to keep her anonymous. I don't think she'd care, but she'll be anonymous. Okay. Eating in the gym. More specifically, PTs or coaches eating in the gym. More specifically, PTs whilst coaching a client eating in the gym. More specifically, which I think is her main problem,
okay,
is the personal trainer in question was PTing their client whilst eating boy kibble.
Do you want to define for everyone what boy kibble is?
So boy kibble is rice and beef mince.
Yeah.
Man kibble is rice, beef mince, and vegetables. He was eating specifically boy kibble.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So just rice, beef mince. I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hatred on the internet for the amount that I eat boy kibble, but I'm into it and I like it, and I'm a big advocate for
I've actually not had explicitly, as you described it, boy kibble a lot, because I thought boy kibble was pretty much just any meat, relatively lean with rice. But
Well, I guess that's it.
yeah, and do you know what? It might not be deemed as the most professional thing. You wouldn't do a big meeting in a corporate job while eating out of the Tupperware. But like,
I think like,
do you know what? You're just being a good example to your client. You should fuel.
yeah, the fueling thing I get, but I'm also like, as a PT working in a gym, are you just eating that to make it look like that's what you normally eat, but actually you go home and sit and like eat pizzas, which is also fine. Balance is cool.
Balance is cool.
So cool. I think why this specific example is frustrating for the person who sent it in was they kept leaving their food on equipment. That like sat on the leg press, where a person should be sat, not your Tupperware full of beef and rice.
Okay, I need to keep this more concise, but I do want to mention that in my newer gym, which is a lovely facility, much cleaner, everything like that, everyone has a habit of wiping everything down all the time. And do you know what? So here for it, because everyone else is a sweaty bastard. I at times am, and when I am, I will do the courtesy of wiping it down. But sometimes I haven't sweat. It was my first set. I warmed up, something like that. I'm not going to wipe it down. But the evils I get
Really?
sometimes when I leave a machine, and there's nothing to say I was ever on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, don't wipe it down. It's like in a hoodie and trousers.
Yeah. I do like it when I see people respecting the equipment and wiping it down. But yeah, there's sometimes overkill, isn't there?
Yeah. Okay, some other good ones that are weather related. First one is that the weather being good means that social media is just pub gardens now.
Yeah, nice.
That is kind of annoying. The second one is that
follow the wrong people.
The track is being overloaded with people again. And specifically, this one came from Freddie Cree. Where were all of you fuckers? He didn't actually say that. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing. But where were all of you when it was January and raining?
Yeah. That's my morning crew at Battersea Park when it was cold and dark and pre 6 a.m. before the lights come on and you're running laps. It was me and maybe like 4 other people.
Just you and the other bozos.
Smashing laps. And now it's, I mean, I love to see it. Like it's so busy with people running around the park, but it is like a lot of people.
Yeah. There should be social lanes.
Yeah, there should.
A bit like swimming.
Speed lane. Fast lane.
Okay, another one, we've had a re-entry of vapists. For clarification, for those that don't know what that is, people that vape are all vapists. You're a child, it's like using flavored toothpaste. We've gone through that. You leave flavored air around and it's horrible that people have to breathe in what's already been in your mouth. You wanted to add to this.
Yeah, it was coincidence because we both put vaping on the list.
Yeah.
Or you put vapists. I put vaping.
I think vapist is a word that should catch on.
Outside of like fitness events, and obviously the fitness event I'm talking about is High Rocks, but there was so many people coming out of the venue and then just standing outside to vape. And I'm like, this is just the worst look ever. But worse than that, when we were on the plane back from Toulouse, the guy sat in front of us. He was like, I just need to smoke. We're sat on the runway, like about to take off. The guy, vape pen, for all of you watching on Spotify and YouTube, he took his vape inside the shirt, did the old look around to see if there's any people watching, does the old vape, again, he like holding the flavored air in his mouth, does the old look around, and then just like subtly...
Did you tell on him?
No, I don't like confrontation.
Oh, I would so tell on him.
Excuse me.
No, I'd be like, sorry, there's smoke. There's smoke. Try and like make it like an emergency so that he's like, no, it's just me vaping. I'm so sorry. Let him, like, I wouldn't tell
on
him.
the plane.
That's such a prick move.
Yeah, it was tough.
Not a fan of that. Okay, we've got a few more to come through here quickly. One, this is a personal experience from today.
Oh no.
Toilets that don't lock but look like they're locked. So I locked the door to my knowledge, and I always check because of like it's a horrible scenario if that doesn't lock.
That's up there with the worst scenario.
So like I was in the toilet and someone just started opening the door. And the worst thing about it is, honestly, it's just an ick. Like, fortunately, they didn't see me in this occasion. I have had that happen where like the toilet's the other side of a room.
You can't make it across.
Yeah, you can't. You just sort of I'm sat there.
Yeah, accept your fate.
And if you're sat down, real compromising position. Anyway, I managed to stop the door, but like the ickiest thing about that whole scenario is that you have to
pass them again.
What comes out of your mouth is horrible because it's so British. But you're like, oh, sorry, fuck. Now I'm just dying. I don't want to be here, and I now don't want to leave the toilet for 2 minutes because I need you gone. Like we cannot know
who that was.
Like I need to be confident that it could be anyone in the building. Please God, when I come out of here, are you not stood there waiting?
Do you know the most fearful one? You know, on trains where they have the sliding door, the electric door, and you have to like press the button and it opens,
and it doesn't.
The fear to know that that's locked or not.
Yeah. Because it doesn't just like open a bit. It's like wide open, and if you were to close it again, it would just be like horrible.
Just wavy.
Horrible.
Oh, that one's so tough.
You've got another one.
Okay, I feel like you might be upset about this.
No.
Okay. When people use songs on their Instagram stories that are like specific to the thing that they're posting.
Okay.
So the best example is a photo of a dog and someone will go with the song "Who Let the Dogs Out" as an example.
Okay. But we've in the past said it annoys us on Instagram story posts when people don't use a song that's relevant to what's going on.
Well, now I'm just going a level further. There's etiquette to it.
Okay.
I would rather you use music and do it incorrectly like this and not use music.
The correct use of this song is if someone's feet are out. Who let the dogs out? That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
do you know what I mean?
I'm on board with that.
Or like driving the car or like the sunset and they've put some Zach Bryan and it's like Pink Skies by
There's
Zach
another
Bryan.
level to this that Charles isn't going to bring up, but you have kind of gone viral a little bit with one of your reels about Key Hodgkinson, and one of the comments is honestly just bizarre. But I'm pretty sure you put up a story post the next day and the song was relevant to that. Am I right? Am I speaking Charles code? Because the words of it was a Drake song and it was like something about my comments and something like that.
So no, I don't want to give away my trade secrets, but often, so this is then because I don't want it to sound hypocritical because I wouldn't put like, I don't know, like the sunset photo and then type in sunset and then put the song that comes up because sometimes Instagram suggests songs.
Instagram uses AI to look at what's in your photo and then suggest something.
Right.
Yeah.
That's probably the worst. But I will use music that's relevant to the environment or the situation or like the people that were there. So it's like if we were listening to a certain song when I took that photo or we were training to certain music, I'll use that. So it's like it's always specific and there's always like I'll think about the lyrics.
Okay.
I'm never just posting a song because it's like
another rogue tangent because it seems to be what we're good at. But you don't have TikTok. Have you ever done the thing on someone else's TikTok where you just take a photo of yourself, selfie, just how you're looking at the phone, and it gives a sound, but like it doesn't do the Instagram thing where it gives you like music. It just gives you a round sound.
No.
Hilarious. We'll do it after this because honestly it's so funny.
Follow us on TikTok.
Yeah, follow us on TikTok for the results actually. That's a super simple content idea.
Yeah.
Last one.
Back to me. I went to hit balls the other day at the driving range and there's like, I think this is, I don't like it when people who aren't qualified give unsolicited advice. Doesn't matter the situation.
That's so me.
But like, I think that's derived from people trying to coach in my classes who just don't know what they're talking about, whatever. At the driving range, bays upon bays upon bays, it was busy, of like, because it was the Easter weekend, I guess, of people who were just like trash at golf. But they'd brought their mate who was even more trash. Then trying to teach them and be like, yeah, you should hold it like this. And then it's like trying to use terminology that they've just made up in their head that sounds good. And like, it was just so hard to watch. I'm like, I'm not a golf coach. But I was just like, you shouldn't be helping your mates.
Again, if I'm trying to help someone, like I have helped a lot of my friends with golf stuff before, but I am better than them. But I'm also doing it from a perspective of like,
this is what
I can't argue. I'm not telling you what I do.
Yeah.
I'm telling you scientifically what you're doing wrong. Your left foot should not be leaving the ground. That's kind of what I'm giving you. I also sometimes will be like, try and swing with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
Just to like stop trying to hit the ball.
Oh yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not going to be like, oh bro, like you should interlock 2 fingers.
But
like, one's great.
Yeah. Or I'm just like, they've gotten like no aptitude to coaching anyway, because what they're doing is like rattling off a list of things that they've like read in Golf Weekly or something. And they're like, move your feet and then do this. And then you should be swinging from your shoulders. And it's like, it's just too much stuff. And I'm like, if you're an actual coach, you'd give them one thing and it would probably be like, move your hips like you're going to punch someone in the face.
Yeah.
Rather, do you know what I mean? Like, but whatever. Who cares?
Well, that brings us to the end of Grind My Gears. Guys, if you have things that, or if that has brought things to the surface of stuff that's been going on with you recently, make sure you send us a message. You don't have to wait till something's up on the story. Do just ping us a message. We do love that. There is actually one from, this is going to annoy Venla because she's sent them in before and we've not got through them. I will come back to it next episode, but we do need to move on.
Next one will be like the boys on the MindSets podcast.
For sure.
Never doing
For
Grind
sure
My Gears. Sorry, Venla.
Or do you know what? 10 seconds, Venla, here you go. Because we had this as a multiple and I've experienced as well. People not letting you off things. In her case, lift. She wasn't allowed out of the lift. She had to ask people to move out of the way so she'd get off at her floor. My case, on the tube, I was being really patient, letting everyone else get off. And then everyone made a wall in front of me and I had to be like, guys, let me off. Hate being that person. And someone else said the same about escalators, just people standing in the way and not letting anybody else come past.
You sounded much more polite than I was.
Oh, I got through that. I hope you appreciate that, Venla, and anyone else that may feel like we ever won't mention their Grind My Gears. We will. We'll go through the effort. Anyway, we did say, and this is why we say it at the start of the podcast so that we don't lose you guys, Ellie Kildunne, we're going through her training. I've been listening to some of her podcasts recently. It would be great if she was able to come on. So if anyone knows any way of getting her on, then please do let us know. Ellie, if you're listening to this, message.
I know it's a busy time.
I know it is a busy time right now. You do have the Six Nations on. But yeah, do you want to give us a bit more of a wider intro as to who Ellie is for those that aren't so on top of it? And then we can actually dive into why her training is interesting.
So Ellie, like I said at the beginning, probably most famously known because she was a World Cup winner with the Red Roses last year, which was fantastic. But I mean, English rugby has been like crazy dominant to the point where it's like, I don't need to watch it because I know England are going to win. And that's like such a nice place for English women's rugby to be at. And as a result, there's been such like a huge, like not resurgence, but like so many girls wanting to get into playing rugby, which is so good for the sport. But yeah, so she also plays her club rugby at Harlequins in West London. I believe she has been there for a few years now. She used to play at Wasps and then jumped across to Harlequins. Before that, she was at Hartbury. So played her rugby at Hartbury. Her position, she plays fullback. So for anyone who doesn't know positions in rugby, there's kind of like, you split the team in half. Basically, you have the forwards who do all of the dirty work, all the scrummaging. Yeah, exactly. If you're into that.
Unsung heroes.
Yeah, there's a tournament for that. And then the backs who get all the glory, who run in and score all the points, basically. But she plays fullback. Part of the back three, so she's basically a covering position. So she'll cover kicks, she'll cover people who break through the line, does a lot of hard work around the back in defense, but a lot of what she's known for is her speed, skill, and then also her ability to catch high balls, basically.
So I used to play fullback, and when I played fullback, the top 3 skills when I was playing that set me apart from some of the other people with where I got to in the sport was my ability to catch the balls that are high, because a rugby ball does not move normally in the air, you can imagine. And then, so being able to take that without knocking it on and also not giving it to the opposition. The other thing was being able to make the last tackle when someone breaks through the line, because you're kind of the last line of defense. And the biggest impact and what would get you noticed to scouts as a young player would be to get involved in the action when you're trying to score a try and being skillful. So because you're a fullback, you don't have a position. So ordinarily scrum half, fly half, inside centre, outside centre, wingers, and then you've got the fullback chilling in the back. As a fullback, you can basically insert yourself wherever you want. I would say that very carefully.
Yeah, I'd use exactly the same words. Yeah.
So if I see an opportunity between the inside centre and the outside centre, because they don't have anyone that could possibly tackle me, then I'll yell and scream for it, and I'll take it in between the two of them if I have to. They might not even know about it, and then I can burst through the line, go sort of 20 meters down before I get tackled, and then we offload the ball again. That's the fun of it. And if you're a high IQ fullback, then you really understand, and you have to understand the flow of the game so that you know, okay, do I need to be up on the line to help defend at this particular point because of where we're out in the field? Or is someone going to try and do something cheeky and kick it over my head if they're going to do that? If they're going to do that, where are they going to put it? That kind of thing. You need to be able to move around and really like spin your head and get to the opposite direction of seemingly where the game is going because you've seen a weakness or like you see a point of attack, that kind of thing.
It's got to be one of the most challenging positions on the field in terms of making the right decision and like where you positionally, where you put yourself in the field at, like you said, different situations. But I saw a funny thing. She was in an interview, I think it was some kind of like red carpet event, and they were like, Ellie, what's the biggest lie you've ever told? And she said that when she got phoned up to like the phone call to call her up to the England squad, they were like, oh, you play a lot of fullback, don't you? And she'd never played fullback in her life before. And she was like, yeah. So it's kind of like, I don't know how much of that is actually true, but it's like fake it till you make it, which I thought was really awesome. But she's obviously done a very good job at learning. And like you say, because she's speedy, because she's got good ball handling skills, and she's obviously got a good aptitude for learning and understanding and reading the game, she's fucking good at fullback.
I'm going to counteract what I said previously about like it being quite a high IQ and like you're the last line of defense, you're a very important position, because you can hide a player at fullback because like they don't have to be involved. So the opposite being, if you have someone like Ellie that is extremely talented at fullback, you notice that straight away because it almost gives a team an extra player because they are usually, your job as a fullback isn't to always be on the attacking. It isn't to always be on the defending. It's to be a bit of both. It's like the central midfield of like a football game kind of thing. So when you have a good one, it's obvious. And when you have a bad one, it's actually not that obvious. So like you can kind of get away with it.
I guess it does depend because it's like how often do you see in international rugby, especially where the team who's attacking, let's say the context is they're in the 22 and then there's maybe a mismatch on the outside and you throw a pass and it beats two defenders and then there's heaps of space on the outside and you're like, well, actually, where was the fullback? Or they put in a little kick over the top and you're like, how have they scored that? Where was the fullback? So it's like right close to home. If you're defending and the fullback's out of position, that's when it shows. But like you say, if you're attacking or you don't want someone to have the ball or you're not in a very vulnerable position, you might as well not have a fullback at some point.
Exactly.
So I see what you're saying.
But yeah, as we also mentioned it slightly earlier, but the Red Roses as a team are really like at the forefront of training, technology, that kind of thing in women's sport. They take a lot of obviously what goes on in the men's program over, but one of the things that I actually heard Ellie talking about on a different podcast was actually from the health side of things. So she'll actually do a lot of her training on her own away from the Red Roses. But when they come to like training camps, specifically when it's like the sevens training camps, they go on for multiple weeks. Every single time they turn up to the facility in the morning, they have a checkbox of how they're feeling, both emotionally generally, but also related to their cycle, because the cycle part of her training and the Red Roses training is like pivotal to how they program everything, which is obviously like, it makes a lot of sense. One of the things that she said, and we're staying on the broad topic of this at the moment, is when it comes to her training, she didn't say that she lies on that form, but she definitely doesn't like to respect the question as much as it's asked, purely because, and in her words, she said, if I'm like going to come on my period or some point and that happens to be the World Cup final, like, am I going to check out? Because I have in training, like there are some days you've just got to suck up that like you've got a tough session and like you're not ideally primed for it. What she did say though, and what the host on that podcast did a good job of, and this was Women's Health podcast, did a good job of talking about, was actually there's quite a lot more research going on specifically into ACL injuries around certain points of a women's cycle. But
I'd say it's broader than just ACL. It's just like injuries.
Yeah, there's just been a large amount of research on ACL specifically, but injuries in general, there are, and we've said this before.
And performance. Yeah.
Cycle massively depends on that. The other thing that's quite interesting is when they go into these camps, and they spoke about this less, but I don't understand this. I'm not going to pretend to. Women sync up when they spend a lot of time around each other, which is like crazy to me. But like when women spend a lot of time together, their cycles can sync up, which means that if you spend enough time together as a team, that can actually be somewhat more predictable. But at the beginning of a camp, it might be a complete head case for some of the coaching staff. The benefit obviously is that a large portion of the coaching staff is actually also female, so they're understanding it as well. So they do have
so underqualified to be talking about
underqualified, but like it's fascinating.
But in terms like the syncing up stuff and like but in terms of like training around your cycle, I'm sure it's the same at all professional level of female sport. It's so important in terms of like when you're peaking for your performance, when you can push hard, when you can lift heavy, when you can run hard, when you can run fast, versus actually you just need to be a bit kinder to your body. I'm unsurprised that their training's kind of associated with all of that.
If we stay on the red roses for now before we go specifically down the path of Ellie, like as a kind of staying on the top view, if we talk about their camp, they have we found a bit of a loose weekly structure. So part of camp, when you bring the whole team together, and I've experienced this with American football, is not just what you do on the field. It's partly bringing the team together to become a team. But one of the biggest things that you do is you review film. And like this has become more and more of a thing in every sport where you do video analysis because it's such an important learning tool. So they will do a lot of game analysis from previous seasons, from previous competitions. Yes, what you did wrongly, often what you did well, and what you want to bring into this year, whether that is having like play designs that you want to call, and that is a thing in rugby, not just in American football. But then off the back of those sessions, as you're building this team, you want to take them into things like heavy gym sessions where you're pushing them and they're pushing each other. They're starting to build that competitive edge. I will be honest as well, I don't know how often this would happen here, but in a lot of training camps that I've experienced, both in my personal life, but also in other people's, you do boil over as a team sometimes. Quite often there's been fights, there's been things said that just you wouldn't even imagine get said before these camps, but like the intention is to push you to that point of attrition where you resolve it as a team, so that when that happens on game day, you have each other's backs. You're not actually like leaving that person.
Well, it's like there must be like an interesting dynamic, because week in, week out, they're rivals at club level. So it's like, so that you've got the two factors. You've got, okay, I really dislike this person because they're on the opposition, not because it's a personal thing. They're my opponent. I want to beat them. And then you're kind of all brought together. And I think people often overlook, whatever sport, when you're coming together as an international team, you've got players from all different clubs. And then just to expect them to instantly merge is really difficult. And that's why team selection from a coach's perspective is so important as well.
Yeah, and it's a big factor. I mean, I'm sure Ellie at the moment doesn't have too much of a worry about this, but for some players coming from their club team to then going to a national program, you come from being the best player on your team. You come to the national program, there might be another player who's considered the best player on their team who also just happens to be in the same position as you.
Right.
And if the coaches can't find a way for you both to be on the field at the same time, you are going to go head to head, and it is going to at some point get competitive and a little bit chippy or whatever. So that sort of thing happens. So that at the beginning of the week, apparently they tend to start things off with game analysis. That sets you up for the understanding of what's coming for the week's training, why you're doing what you're doing. You do some gym sessions, you do some light skills to kind of introduce you to the week, kind of get the brain warmed up more than the body. But then Tuesday is the hardest day of training. So that's when you'll do a large amount of conditioning. You'll do sort of some sprint work. Ellie's mentioned that also in her personal training, but as a big piece of training is like a 50-meter sprint, a 1 minute off 50-meter sprint, and you'll do that until coach is satisfied, which can be rough. I remember doing it where you'd have to touch a line, and then the coach would inevitably lie and say one person didn't touch the line, so you've got to do it again. And it's just, again, testing your mental fortitude as a team. Like, who's going to break? Is someone going to go like, oh, come on, why didn't you? Or are you going to be like, shut up, get on with it, kind of thing. Then another typical thing, and I don't know if this actually stems from university and younger days in sport, because university, you have bucks in the UK and you have Wednesdays off sport or off uni to a degree because you have games. But if you don't have games, then because your training is built around the idea of normally you don't have Wednesday as a training day, they keep that consistent. So again, Ellie in her own training, but also I would take it as an understanding that they might do the same thing at the Red Roses level. You basically have Wednesday off for recovery. Now, recovery, and we've spoken about this with elite athletes before, doesn't necessarily mean you sit on your sofa and do nothing.
Sure.
But it means that training isn't necessarily like a hard focus. You might do an easy effort. You might do something pretty light, just keep the body moving, refreshing after a tough day on the Tuesday. Thursday, again, back into some speed work. You might do some more game ready work where you do backs and forwards. You might do small units of that. Again, some skill work, a bit more contact towards this point in the week. They've done pretty low contact at that point, apart from some heavier stuff on Tuesday. Friday, I've got it here from research that's called Captain's Run. Not entirely sure why it is, but it's basically like a mini game idea. I'll start doing that. Saturday, in an ideal world, you'd have like a match day. And then Sunday.
I'd imagine Captain's Run is basically there'd be very little to no contact at that point because it's so close to game day.
Yeah.
And often you'll do Captain's Run at the stadium. So it's like for some of the players who have never played in the Allianz or at Twickenham, just going into that environment with like 80,000 people there, it's like, that's overwhelming. So it's like, get on the field, give them an opportunity to acclimatize. On the flip side, if you're traveling or whatever, you're going to play in Scotland or you're going across to France, it's nice to be in the stadium and get orientated with that. Captain's Run, you'll probably run some lines, some backs moves, that kind of thing. Get the interlink play between some set pieces off the line out, maybe off the scrum, and just kind of get the cohesion, get the confidence.
It's a bit like a dress rehearsal. It's a bit like doing a shakeout run for your running race or your high rocks or whatever. It's also, we did it in American football, we'd do walkthroughs where we'd literally have the playbook and we'd walk through everything and there'd be zero contact.
Yeah.
You'd split off into your units and you just work through some of that. And again, it's just like in rugby, it's getting the ball in the hands. Like nervousness, you can get sweaty palms, you can get jittery fingers, like just getting through that.
I think also then like the kickers who kick off the tee,
Yeah.
it's nice to then be able to like see the posts. Obviously there's no people in the stadium, but it's like, okay, do I have reference points? What's going to potentially be a distraction on game day? It's just like get the feel for it and understand how that might work as a dynamic on the day.
Yeah, I mean, so basically as a top overview before we finally dive into Ellie's actual training is game speed. The Red Roses are known for being pretty slick with their skills and quite quick. So that is a big focus. So drills are fast, they're under pressure. So they're kind of put to the point where they might fail things, and that's the learning point. And then how to do things under fatigue. Because if you're going to be a team that is known for being fast and skillful, there are going to be teams that try and bring a more heavy element to the game and try and wear you down to the point where those things no longer happen because your body just given up on you.
You can't. Yeah.
So they do a lot of that. And then they also do quite a lot of individualization in terms of focus between position groups. So the skills specific to that position get worked on under a magnifying glass before they get brought into the wider team. That's kind of the main things that are worth mentioning before we actually dive into Ellie's training. So if we go up to Ellie's training in the notes, she, as we have said, outside of camp, will do a lot of her training actually on her own. There's actually a couple of reasons for this. In the women's game, not everybody's professional. So some of them have full-time jobs, which means that as she's fortunate, I mean, off her own back, to be playing the game full-time, it makes sense for her to do a lot of her training on her own at a time that makes sense rather than rely on X person who's coming from work and might be running late, and like that might ruin the session, ruin fueling, ruin every other plan. So she does do apparently quite a lot of her training at home. She also likes to take Wednesdays off, or she'll try to manage her sort of PR days to be on Wednesdays so that like it doesn't become a massive detriment to her training, which is, I mean, something Charlie spoke about weeks ago. Do you know what? We're going to have to do an episode where we don't talk about Charlie. But Charlie mentioned a week ago when he came in on the podcast, like Thursdays are his day where like it's usually easy.
Yeah. It's something that I guess you just so easily overlook, but like for all of these professional sports people, they have obligations to their sponsors. They want to go to events that they've been invited to. Yeah, I guess it's just something you have to deal with and factor into your training.
One of the really interesting things that Ellie has spoken about publicly is that her training is not what you might think for a rugby player in terms of her preference and her bias. She isn't the biggest fan of running. She actually doesn't like it. For someone that's as quick as she is
Yeah.
and that has to do as much running as she doesn't actually love running. So she might use different methods for getting her aerobic fitness in. By all means, just
Please tell me it's a cross trainer.
It's no, I honestly don't know. She doesn't necessarily specifically say. I think she actually does quite a lot of cycling.
Yeah.
But her running seems to maintain itself in terms of speed if she doesn't do any for a while, opposing to mine. But what she does say she struggles with is the strength side of things. And she spoke about her young life when she was playing rugby before she went to Hartbury College. She decided to go all in on rugby, I think, when she was 16. So she moved away from home, went to Hartbury, went all in. And because she was talented, she kind of coasted through being good at rugby until she started playing some more competitive teams and like her career was becoming serious. And that's when she realized, like,
I need to get stronger.
I need to get stronger because I'm not taking these hits very
Yeah.
I'm not laying the hit so much as I'm receiving it. And that's where she started doing her gym training. But she freely admitted that like she's pretty weak and or like she was pretty weak.
I guess it's also like her reference point is like that's relative to some of the other girls who like could be like crazy strong.
Yeah.
So her going, oh, I'm really weak.
Yeah, she's not weak.
She's not even close to being weak, but I understand like what that means for her.
But she does say in her training
something she wants to improve.
If she removes focus from her gym sessions and her weight sessions,
loses it.
She loses that way more quickly than like her ability to run.
I think that's just like we say this all the time. It's as an athlete, you're probably biased towards something. For her, she's just more aerobically biased than she is like power output and like being able to develop strength like that.
Yeah.
Which is, but like on the flip of that, she's also really freaking fast. So she has like good aptitude to being fast, but maybe it's just not like this power strength thing.
So one of the big things people in life to a degree are fast. You can be born with genetic tendencies to be quicker than other people, but you absolutely do not keep that speed or get faster without running fast. So if we looking at like a kind of week's program with her, Monday could be heavy lower body gym. And then as a result of it being relatively intense on her lower body already, she will do some speed work. It'll be very, very short distance, 10 to 20 meter bursts, the kind of thing. If you're putting this into a game perspective, you're seeing that opportunity and you're seeing someone break through the line and you've got to burst to get there. Those kind of quick bursts, not necessarily long recovery, getting out of the blocks kind of thing, and acceleration work. And that's a pretty demanding day on the central nervous system. But then going into the next day, it's actually then working less on the acceleration, gradual building into some top speed work. And again, that's really where she sets herself apart from some of the other players in the women's game. So working on that, and then a lot more of the skill stuff. So as a fullback, like you may not want to do all of the kicking, but you need to know how to do it. It's a safety thing. It's a way to slow the game down. You need to be able to work on your kicking game. So that's when you do that sort of thing. You might also do some handling skills. And then if you can train with someone else on this particular day, this is where you might do some games, some competitive stuff to kind of blow the cobwebs off early on in the week in terms of being quick, and a bit like the Red Roses methodology of like doing it under a bit of fatigue because you've just had 2 hard training days. Then we go into her Wednesday. Quite literally, she says that like Wednesday is when she needs to catch up on the washing, because as a pro athlete, I mean, we see this as non-pro athletes. There's so much washing to be done constantly. I don't believe it. So then going into Thursday, this is where we do a little bit more like power focused technique work and some conditioning stuff. So this is where you're doing some of the more complex movements in the gym. So you might be doing like cleans, you might be doing more like plyometric stuff as well, maybe adding some weight in there if it's deemed necessary and you're not too fatigued from earlier on in the week.
Do you know what, just I'm going to butt in here, but it's like what's consistent across everything that we talk about when it's specific to a pro athlete? Like you could almost have a generic program for whatever sport you're doing. It's like we're going to have a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and a little bit of this, and we can probably, it's so hard if you put Ellie's program in front of me, like all of the specifics, that could be one of hundreds of different sports that it belongs to. And again, I said it on it could have been the last podcast or the one before, where I was just like, I feel like fitness and training is way more complicated than it needs to be, or it's been made to be like that, where it's like, just keep it simple, keep it specific to your sport, do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you're going to be fine.
Big time. One of the interesting things off that though, that rugby players in particular, and there are other athletes, it'll be obvious once I say this, but need to consider. And she has actually put up a list of exercises that she does in some of her gym sessions. And most of her gym sessions will be more like full body targeted.
Yeah.
But things like being on a bench, kneeling dumbbell row is an example. Things like RDLs, both barbell, dumbbell, seemingly mundane, not flashy, core exercises that just build a good generic foundation of strength for the full body. And part of that, yes, is to have that foundation to build these other movements and generate the force, do the plyometrics, everything like that. Part of it is protection.
Yeah.
You are in a contact sport. If you're someone like Ellie that runs faster than most people, that also means when you get stopped, you go down harder than most people, which means that you need to be doing the movements that generally protect your body using muscle than an athlete that maybe does skiing or like long distance running, because they're not expecting to get hit by 14, 15 other players at a time.
There's just like the force and impact that whether it's the men's game, the women's game, that they're suffering across 80 minutes of rugby is like mind blowing. And that's the one thing that I always think when I'm watching a rugby game. I'm just like, these guys are so tough. Like, you get hit, like they get hit, there's no way you're getting back up and then continuing to play for another 78 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, it's actually wild.
One of the other things that doesn't actually get mentioned by her, but again, I'm just going to safely assume, which is bold of me, safely assume that things that happen, again, for rugby players with that scenario, things like neck training. I saw a really interesting statistic recently that there was like I can't be quoted on this. This is just because it's interesting, but generally the takeaway from it was from 75% of individuals that trained their neck once a week to a hypertrophy development experienced 13% lower likelihood of concussion.
Interesting.
Which is, again, for a professional athlete that does
were they the actual numbers?
13% definitely. I don't know if it was 75% that did.
I've seen something similar actually recently.
Which 13% doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're a player, and we've had guests on the show previously that have experienced concussions, and the problem with when you've had one concussion, the tendency to get another concussion is way, way higher. So if you are of that case, a 13% reduction in likelihood is huge for you. Another thing that probably doesn't get enough credit in the game of rugby is your gum shield as well. A good quality gum shield can stop the amount of force. And basically you're looking for ways to absorb the impact without absorbing the impact. And if your neck is a way of developing that, that's why a lot of rugby players, even outside of the forwards, seem to either have no neck or an extremely fat neck. And it's the same for Formula One. You need to be able to have your head take forces that it might not always expect.
I think in and around the men's Six Nations finishing, I think it was BBC, but I definitely watched it on YouTube. Ben Young's previous England rugby player, he played scrum half for England for a long time. It must be like over 100 caps, one of the most capped England rugby players. Did a really, really, really good documentary on head injury and then the long-term repercussion of the head injury, and he spoke to former teammates like Lewis Moody, Steve Thompson, who played front row in 2003 World Cup, among all other hosts. They discussed the gum shield, they discussed the protocols, they discussed how players are now suing the RFU, how there's been massive lawsuits in the NFL around head safety, and they've paid out billions of dollars for players in compensation. Really, really interesting. It's quite like thought-provoking as well. We both played rugby, and when you're younger, I don't think you necessarily consider the long-term issues that can come with playing a contact sport where your head inevitably gets hit. And watching rugby, I watch a lot of rugby, and you're like, even just the mundane and like the things that aren't really involved in the game, you see someone get hit in the head, kneed in the head, slapped in the head, and you're like, the accumulation of that over time. And it's like, it's worrying to think of like what this person's going to be like in X amount of years.
I think the tougher thing, and this isn't like a political topic, but it's something that's worth mentioning, is that even now, and I claim to be relatively mature, even now, if you were like, okay, you could go and play rugby for the rest of your life and be pretty well off, or, you know, if you want to protect your head, it's fine, go and work an office job and you'll make probably similar money by the time even now, to me, it's hard for me to say I would take the office job and protect my head.
Yeah. That's actually really funny that you say that, because you ask Lewis Moody, who's suffering all sorts of different issues around this because of the reason why he had so many head injuries. He said, obviously I'd go and do it all again. Like it's led me to this point where I've had the dream of playing for England, playing rugby as a professional for my career. I've got a family that I can now provide for all of this. And there's a part, Ben Youngs and Lewis Moody used to play together at Tigers, and they're quite close friends. And it was like really emotional. And I'd recommend anyone going and watching that.
It's quite tough. But then if we also bring in to the aspect that women's sport is developing, Ellie is now a full-time athlete.
Yeah.
I think we looked up before the show, her annual sort of salary, as much as we can figure it out, is in and around like 40, 50 grand a year. And like she's full-time in a sport which, you know.
I think that's like salary from Quinn's, but I'd imagine an athlete of her profile in the women's game is getting good money from sponsorships elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure. But then if you even compare that to the men's Premiership rugby game, and you might say, and like it is completely, I do think it's somewhat fair to say that like the demand of viewing is what pays, which is why rugby generally as a sport is quite low paid in comparison to other sport. But in her case, as the best player, one of the best players in the world,
she got
not just the women's game,
World Rugby Player of the Year 2000.
We've already established that the Red Roses are better than the men. What do we even call ourselves? Just England men's rugby. That's really dumb. Yeah. But like we've established that the Red Roses are a better team. So she is definitely the best player in the in probably the UK, but probably the world.
She's up
all
there.
round. So like when you for her to be earning that much, and then we've said, and this is nothing on him, but what was it? Owen Farrell.
No, Finn Russell's highest paid rugby player in the year,
1.2 million a year. So she's earning like less than 5% on paper as to what he's earning.
Then you go straight across to football.
Yeah.
And we went Cristiano Ronaldo, highest paid probably athlete in the world.
He's getting 750 grand a day.
Yeah. 625 mil a year, was it?
Yeah.
It's just like, and he gets brushed and he'll fall on the floor.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that's my all time. I want to see rugby players play rugby against football players. I want the England men's football team, England's women's football team versus their equivalent, and just see what happens.
Yeah, it would actually be really fun.
It would be really fun.
To round off her training week, let's say she has a game on Saturday. If she doesn't have a game, it would be sensible of other sports to assume that there is some sort of game intensity session that goes on. However, if there is no game, it doesn't necessarily have to be the Saturday. It will just happen at some point over the weekend. And after that, depending on again when it happens, there'll be some level of recovery movement, not standstill, probably similar to Wednesday, but maybe slightly higher in volume to sort of really flush the body out. Because if you've forgotten, the week starts again the next day and you're back into probably the 2 hardest training days of the week. So like you do really have to prepare your body and your mind for that. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the overall overview. We've already mentioned before, she doesn't really like to pay too much attention to her cycle when it comes to some of those harder days. She doesn't want it to seem like an option when to push herself. She actually says that whether she thinks it's an ADHD thing or not, she's either like 100% or something or 0% on something. So sometimes she really has to force herself to get something going. When she's into it, she can be 100%. But like, that's the reality of being a pro athlete, right? Like you're not always going to want to do something just because it is your job. And while everyone will be like, oh, you're so fortunate that is your job. Well, actually, if you tried doing this every day, being so physically exhausted every day, you know.
I had a really interesting conversation this weekend with a friend of mine who'll know who I'm talking about when he listens to this. He played very high level rugby in the UK. And he said to me that he regrets, because we were having this conversation all about training now. And sometimes I feel like I was talking about my own training. It's like, I can't wrap myself in cotton wool all the time. Sometimes I've got to be like, I'm a bit sore, I'm a bit tired, I don't want to do it, but you've got to go and do it. Other days you go, I know I can't train today because I'm so sore, or I'm just like, I'm not mentally there, I'm going to do something stupid and I'll end up injured. So it's like having that balance and that trade-off. I don't want to be too nice to myself, a little bit like Ellie in that situation, but I do need to be sensible. And he was saying that when he used to play rugby, he regrets not playing hurt more, because it's like when you look at the professional rugby players at the moment, men's game, women's game, doesn't matter who you're looking at, there's no way that anyone's playing on that field who feels 100% good. There's just no way. You look at the volume of tape they have around their elbows, around their wrists, around their knees, around their shoulders. You're like, any normal person, normal life with that much tape on themselves isn't going to even move. They're just sat on the sofa. Yet you're running and battering each other for 80 minutes. And he was like, I feel like it was a detriment to my development in the game because I was a bit like, my knee's sore, I'm probably not going to play. Where it's like, actually, your knee's not going to get any worse. Tape it up. It's going to be a bit miserable, but you can still play. And that would have maybe like accelerated his progression in the sport. And it's just like such a crazy concept. These people are like grown with the game. Yes, the game's got faster as they've got older, and it's kind of, they've adapted to that. But imagine that was your job. And like you say, it sounds great being a professional sports person, but when it's your job and it's painful, and then you have to have hip surgery when you're 31, and then you can't do this and you can't do that because of all of the neck pain and whatever, like there's a lot of sacrifice.
I don't think I was probably at the same level as the person you're talking about potentially, but I will proudly say that I don't regret playing in any game I played in, and I played in a lot of games that I on paper probably shouldn't have played in. And I'm not talking concussion, I would never validate things like that, but I've had so many knocks, relatively serious injuries, that sort of thing, which I have come out on the other side of and been like, do you know what? Yeah, it was bad. And I'm saying this now when some of the effects might not have fully developed, but like I've played games as a quarterback with my throwing at hand and wrist broken. I've played games with shoulders that are arguably still dislocated until I went and got help a week later and then was told not to play for 2 weeks. But my backup at the time didn't feel confident enough. So I stepped in and played anyway, that kind of thing. And that came from like me quitting on a cross-country race when I was a kid. I don't know if I've told you that before. I fell over. I fell over and I could have just got up and carried on. But like I was so nervous about the whole thing because it was a district final I'd made it to.
I think you may have told me this.
So I fell over, a few people were running over me. I could have just got up and carried on. And what ate me up about that was I pulled out and I pretended like I was hurt and like I was so far behind. So I like came up with this excuse, and my dad just let me, and he just let me say, he didn't say anything good, anything bad. He didn't try and console me. He was just like, you know, if you couldn't, then you couldn't. And then what really, really sucked about it was that the guy that I trained with at my school, I think he came like 18th out of, I think it was something like 350 runners. And in my head, he's probably not listening to this, so I can say this. In my head, I was definitely better than him.
Yeah.
And so I was like, damn, I could have been like possibly top 15, maybe even top 10 in the county.
Yeah.
That would have been unreal. Not sure what I would have done with a cross-country career anyway, but like after that moment, I was like, yeah, you can't be doing that again. And so like that is another reason that I'm just like super competitive with myself and not stopping things.
I think I was more like that when I was younger. I think now I'm a bit more like, is it worth it?
Depends. If it's in a gym session, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm more sensible because like if it's a gym session, I'm not a professional athlete. Like I'd rather not injure myself, which makes it hard for me to do what I enjoy doing later on in the week. But
sometimes it's hard.
If you put me in a high rocks race, I will.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen it. I will pass out.
Yeah.
Before I probably should stop. Anyway, before we continue opening up bad things that we do, we want to give a positive twist on things. We have a lovely partnership with High Socks and Podium Chaser, who have been involved in the podcast now it's getting on for nearly 10 episodes.
I can't believe it's flown by.
It's actually gone very quickly. So, guys, if you've ever been involved in any form of hybrid racing and you have experienced the horrible, horrible moment when your trainer tries to remove itself from the race, part of that is to do with your grip. Maybe you can't even lace lock. If you don't know what a lace lock is, then wow, then we've got some things to go through. But maybe start off with some grip boosted socks. You'll be able to see them right here. I've just put that on me to edit that in, but there'll be a photo of them right here. Basically, they've got grip along the bottom. They're actually pretty fashionable socks. You might have some funky colored trainers, and you've said this. Don't worry, they've got some funky colored socks. So you can use code MindSet15. Go and check out the sock range. If you want to go and try something else out, maybe you want a race specific cap. We've got some cool caps on Podium Chaser, and also some nose tape. If you are like me and are starting to wonder if you've got the trendy deviated septum like everyone else, then try some nose tape out. And by using the code MindSet15, you get 15% off, and that helps us out as well. that means that we get to do cooler things later on this year with the podcast. We're going to go into the final part of the episode. If you're new around here, we do a game and we encourage you guys to get involved. This week, I've been a little bit boring. Hands up. We've got a quiz. So we've got 3 rounds of the quiz. It'll be relatively quick fire because we've got 15 questions. You have got 10 seconds, I reckon, per question.
I don't know how well that'll be policed, but knowing us,
I'm going to try and do it. I've got an eye on something that's counting time.
Okay, cool.
So we'll try our best.
I'll do my best as well.
So, question number 1. Which country has won the most Rugby World Cups?
New Zealand.
Okay. You're not wrong. South Africa has also won the exact same number as that. So it's fine.
As I said it, I was like, okay, it's probably South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, I gave you a double chance to win. Anyway, second question. What is the only sport to have been played on the moon?
Golf.
If you believe we even went to the moon. But yeah,
So
golf is correct. Let's not. Okay. Which tennis player has won the most Grand Slam titles, men's singles?
Djokovic.
Correct. You're doing really well here. You got 3 for 3. Okay.
Best athlete in the world.
Inside joke, go back a few episodes. In football, I can't believe
This is not good for me. This is not good for me.
Soccer. What's the fastest red card ever given? How long did it take?
37 seconds.
2 seconds.
What?
Yeah.
I need context.
I will.
We don't have time.
We might go through that. We don't have time. Which athlete has won Olympic gold in both the 100 meters and the long jump as separate events?
I'm gonna make a fool of myself. I'm gonna judge Daley Thompson.
Carl Lewis.
I actually knew that.
I know you did. It was
Daley
in there.
What am I doing?
Okay, round 2, slightly harder. What's the maximum break in snooker?
Ooh,
I don't think we've ever spoken about snooker.
Never.
Or pool.
the old Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Yeah, man.
I don't know.
147.
I would have never.
That's the max. I actually did know that.
There was I was gonna give a time.
I don't. The thing is, I knew that it was 147. I don't know how it adds up because of the process of putting the different colors in order and which ones come back out and which ones don't.
Well, let's
Crazy.
assess a snooker player's training player.
Do you know what, we should do. I reckon. I'm not to say that it's not complicated. It could be very complicated, but we should maybe do that in one episode where it's like snooker darts.
Yeah.
Okay, which country invented basketball?
Like Mexico.
Canada. Wrong side of America. How long is an Olympic swimming pool?
50 meters.
Good. Which boxer retired undefeated 50-0? For those that pay attention to the news, they have recently unretired.
Tyson Fury. Was it not? Mayweather.
Floyd Mayweather, yeah.
Lloyd-
Who has
Lloyd-
come out of retirement. I think we mentioned it on the news a few episodes ago.
Tyson Fury's also come out of retirement. That's what swayed it for me, but I did know that as
but
well.
Floyd Mayweather has come out of retirement.
fighting?
Manny Pacquiao, round 2. Okay, what's the distance of a marathon exact to the meter?
42.195.
Spot on. Very good. Okay, round 3. So, quote unquote, proper head scratchers.
You wrote that, yeah?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Which Formula 1 driver has the most race wins ever?
It's got to be... I don't know if Verstappen's... I'm going to say Schumacher.
Lewis Hamilton.
Is it?
Yeah.
I hate myself.
I think he's crossed 200 races.
Okay, fine.
Or no, he's easily crossed 100. I remember that happening quite a few seasons ago. So maybe not 200. I should have that in front of me. I don't have that. Sorry, team. In cricket, what does LBW stand for?
Leg before wicket.
Okay. Do you want to explain what leg before wicket means?
No.
Okay. Your leg gets in the way because you're lazy, basically. Which sport uses the term love for 0?
Tennis.
Any other sports?
Probably. Some, I don't know, like other racket sports like badminton.
Wrong. That was a trick question. You just lost the point. There's no other sport.
Is it?
Tennis.
Oh, perfect.
What is the heaviest weight class in boxing called?
Super heavy?
Heavyweight.
Oh.
Super heavy. WWE. I think that's WWE. I think so.
I was so confident
Okay,
as well.
last question. Which country has hosted the most Olympic Games?
I'm going to say America.
You're actually spot on.
Yeah, I thought so.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
That was a very simple, generic quiz. You actually,
But I still didn't do that well.
You outperformed yourself there. I think you actually got, I'm going to say, the majority of those right.
That says more about me than the quiz, probably.
Yeah, maybe. I could have definitely made it harder. The proper head scratches weren't actually that head scratchy, were they?
How long's of swimming pool?
Yeah. There was no evidence of AI usage in that quiz generation at all. Guys, that's why you need to be using the code Mindset 15 at High Socks and Podium Chaser. That allows us to bring in a team to help us do better games. Or, do you know what? The honest reason that we just did a quiz is because we haven't had any feedback on some of the recent games. We've done some really good ones in the past few episodes. You should definitely go and check those out. If there's one in particular you'd like us to do, maybe that we have played before, maybe that we haven't played before, write in. Once again, the socials are at mindsets_podcast. They're down in the description. Whilst you're looking around for something to do right now, while you're listening to this podcast, you should absolutely be following us on Spotify. And if you're not subscribed on YouTube, absolutely hit subscribe button. I don't know why I'm using absolutely so much, but that is me trying to be really persuasive.
Wait, how much does that cost again?
What?
Subscribing on YouTube?
I think it's on sale at the moment.
Oh.
I think it's 100% off. It's still free.
Oh, nice.
Unreal. So like, you guys genuinely don't understand what those numbers mean. We're approaching 500 on YouTube in terms of subscribers, and we're actually very close to hitting 500 followers. Now, also, just to put this out there, Spotify gave me an alarming notice today. Apparently, podcasts like ours typically have 1,250 followers based off the number of listens that we get and that sort of thing. So
we're hugely underperforming.
We're hugely underperforming in the followers, and like, we're doing our bit. So I'm going to hand that over to you guys. Honestly, would genuinely mean a lot. I do actually get the little email notification when someone subscribes, which is really cute, and I like it. So please share some love. If you have done the above, drop a like, drop a 5-star rating would be great. Don't leave anything lower than that. And then also send it to your friends and family. Give them a chance to get involved in the game and see who wins, that kind of thing. Is there anything else from you?
Quickfire Masters predictions. Just give me a name.
Go on. I need you to say what you've been waiting to say.
I think McIlroy's going to back it up and go again.
Why? What is the foundation of that?
Pressure's off him now. He played so well last year. It will be fresh in his memory, and he'll just go and play like he's never played before and just enjoy it. And I think that will bode really well for him. But if he doesn't, then it will probably be Scotty Scheffler.
I think I'm going to put a double prediction down. I think it will be a complete outsider.
Really?
This year, or like not complete outsider, but not like top 5. And if I'm wrong, I'm gonna say it's John Rahm.
Yeah, he's down for like second.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have some fun.
I'd love it if Bryson won as well. Big Bryson fan. So we'll see.
Also, if you're looking for something wholesome to watch, there's a video of Rory McIlroy and his daughter playing in the family round, which they do every year at Augusta.
Par-3 course. Yeah.
She makes a putt is questionable. There's contact between the putter and the ball, and she sinks it, and the crowd goes wild, and she honestly has no idea what to do with herself. It's adorable. Go and give that a watch. And while you're there, follow at MindSets_podcast. We look forward to seeing you guys all again in the next episode.